These promises strong as a spell. I'll never tell. Yeah, I like you.
Hi guys, welcome back to exmolex. Today I want to share something kind of special to me. 5 years ago, when I first read the CES letter and then started deconstructing Mormonism, looking into more church history, etc., one of the first things that I did was go looking for a community. If you've left Mormonism, you know how hard it is to feel like you're losing your community. And so for me, that was just naturally one of the first things I wanted to do, was find other people who felt betrayed by the Mormon church. The first place I came across was the Ex-Mormon Reddit. I had never used Reddit before, so I made an account specifically so I could go on there and make a post and talk to other people. I really wanted to find that post, but unfortunately it looks like maybe I deleted it at some point because it still exists. I found the title and I can read the comments, but I can't see the actual post, which was really upsetting. I wish that I still had it because I would love to go back and read it 5 years later, because this was probably like a week or two after I read the CES letter and I was starting to do deep dives. So I want to know what was going through my head at that moment. I wish I could still see the post, but I can see the title, I can see a couple comments I left, and I can see the comments that other people left. And a lot of these people were just so incredibly sweet. They left the nicest comments, and I wanted to read them for you guys today because these are the first pieces of advice I got when I first left the Mormon church. The title of my post was "Almost an Ex-Mormon and I Need Help." I was struggling so hard at this point in my life. My whole life had been turned upside down. I remember my foundations were rocked and it was so difficult, and I felt so alone because you cannot talk to Mormons about it, you know? I hadn't spoken to anybody in my family about it. My husband knew and he and I had talked about it, but no one else. It was just us against the world. And so yeah, I could see at that moment I need help. I was probably just looking for other people to commiserate with. Here's the first comment. First, it's hard, very hard, to suddenly realize your whole worldview was a sham. It will take a lot of time and emotional processing to go through it. I'm still going through it myself and struggle on a daily basis. A lot of people here have good advice, and there's a video on YouTube on how to approach your family members and friends who are still in the church. That's a very good resource. I'm on mobile, so I'll try to post it later for you. First, keep your husband in the loop, keep it simple, and let him know you are having doubts, and ask if he read the gospel essays. Then keep it simple and take it slowly with him. Don't attack the church or its leaders, but ask questions. If things get intense, then take a break. We've been subject to years of indoctrination, so it can be a shock to hear direct, contradictory statements against the church and seen as attacks. We've been conditioned to protect the good name of the church. Again, take it very slowly. You have time. Second, I recommend therapy to talk through everything and get to the tools you need to communicate your feelings, emotions, and thoughts. MormonSpectrum.org is a great resource to find a therapist who can help you. I'm a huge advocate for therapy. Third, don't be afraid to reach out privately to your family member. Let him know you are having doubts about the church and found out some information. Be a listening ear. Finally, please reach out to me via PM if you have questions. I'm happy to help out even though I'm some random stranger on the internet. It's overwhelming, but breathe, everything will be okay. Isn't that so sweet? I'm assuming they went point by point through some of the things that I had said. I know that I had mentioned that I had a family member who was struggling, and I assumed it was with their testimony. So they brought that up. I don't think I had said that my husband was also going through this process with me. I was the first person to read the CES letter, but I told him about it immediately. So we went through that together, and I don't think I must not have mentioned that in my post. But giving me great resources, giving me advice, letting me know that I wasn't alone, and expressing so many of the feelings I was having, that it's very hard to suddenly realize your whole worldview is a sham and you have to emotionally process it. And this is such great advice. I would still say that this advice holds up today. So if that was you, thank you so much. This next one, be prepared to mourn the loss of a loved one. It will be very deeply disturbing and heartbreaking. You will feel a lot of anger and a lot of sadness and regret and loneliness, but at least you will be true to what you know. It is worth knowing the truth because it will free you from the shame and guilt. And then I can see my reply. I said, I'm glad to hear it's worth it. There are still moments right now where I wish I hadn't read it and was still living in blissful ignorance. This must have been right after I read it, a week or two after. I was really going through it and wishing that I didn't know. Oh, I feel bad for my newly discovering that the church is not true self. But that really is how it felt at the time. And 5 years later, I can say now for sure that I have no regrets. And I'm so, so glad that I read the CES letter, that I continued to do research, and that I made my way out of the church. It's better now than it's ever been. But in the moment when you're realizing that everything that you hold so dear and precious to your heart is not true, it's devastating. But that person gave really good advice, and I love that they said it is worth knowing the truth because it will free you from the shame and guilt, and it did. The next one, I cried every day for weeks. The loss is devastating. Grieving is a process and it takes time, and I am not done, just in a different place. But it does get better with time. Allow yourself to grieve. It's okay. Hugs. I also cried every day for weeks. I would be like, I remember specifically this moment where you just have to continue on with life. And it did feel like processing a death almost. And so I'm just like continuing on with my life, but it's in the back of my mind at all times. And I was folding the laundry and putting it away in a dresser, and I just started bawling. It just hit me again. Like, I cannot believe that the church isn't true. It just shook me to my very core. Welcome. I don't know how helpful I'll be, as I also haven't figured out how to tell my family. They are all still very faithful and have been since the church began, but just wanted to say that I know how you feel. It can be hard knowing the truth and not feeling free to share it with those you love, and hard to feel alone in your own family. You aren't alone. Please just give yourself the time and space and resources and compassion to work through it all at your own pace, and feel free to reach out whenever you need to talk. Oh my gosh, it almost brings tears to my eyes how the community came together. And like, this is not uncommon. I feel like it happens quite often. Somebody will suddenly realize the church isn't true, or they'll start questioning, and they'll go on Reddit anonymously and just be like, okay, everybody, I'm going through it, help me. And people come together and they do help. Like, I read every single one of these comments, and I'm sure that at the moment, like, it was a huge comfort to me because I was feeling super alone. I remember especially like thinking about my brothers and my mom and my dad and my grandparents and being like, I cannot talk to anybody about this. I can't tell anybody about this. I was so scared that if my family found out that I didn't believe in the church anymore, that, I don't know, they wouldn't want to be, like, they wouldn't love me anymore. And, you know, it's not like that was a completely unfounded thought, because if you know my story, you know that my husband's family did end up disowning us a couple years after we left the church. And church was definitely a factor in that. My own family, thankfully, we're good, but it was really, really scary. It was very scary not knowing for sure how they would react. Thank you for sharing. Your search for truth and following that truth will be something that your kids and their posterity will forever be grateful for. I am not able yet to be open with my wife and kids. It is so hard to hold my tongue when I learn about new lies. It has only been 2 months for me since I learned it is all false. I can be patient a little longer, I suppose. I really do hope that my kids are grateful and that they understand at some point like what we went through to get where we're at. My kids actually have been to a Mormon church a few times now for like funerals and stuff, and they understand after having to sit quietly in a church building how boring it is. And every time that they see church buildings now, they talk about that, like, oh, church is so boring, you just have to sit there. I'm like, yep, pretty much. Just another person saying you are not alone. My shelf crashed about a month ago. I have still been going to church for now since my husband is still in, but I plan to leave in January. I still feel sad over it. It is like losing your culture and so much of your identity. Yes, exactly. A couple different people were also very, very new on this journey with me at the time. I hope that all of them are doing okay now. Okay, your brain is in total panic mode. It's okay, take it slow, and things with your family really won't be as bad as you think. And they weren't, on my side of the family at least. I really wish that I could see the whole post and see what I had initially written. And I did, I tried. I wondered if maybe I had taken a screenshot, so I was going through thousands of photos trying to see if it was in there somewhere. And maybe it is, and I just didn't find it. But the post no longer exists, sadly, so I can't get to it anymore. But for the people that left advice, thank you so much. I really needed it back then, and it was a huge comfort to me to be able to go online and find a community. And I remember probably a few months after I left the church, my dad, seeing that I was communicating with other ex-Mormons online and being upset about it and being like, why would you need a community? And if you're like super familiar with my story, you know that that was kind of where my YouTube journey began, because I felt so, it was one of the times in my life that I felt the most like misunderstood, because it was so devastating to lose Mormonism. And it was something that I never would have wanted. There was nobody in my life that I could talk to about it. And being able to go online, find these people, and have somebody to talk to about the devastation was incredible. And when my dad acted like I didn't need that and he didn't understand it, I was like, I felt even more alone and like more like I needed a community in that moment. And I make a lot of content where I try to leave advice for other people who leave the Mormon church, because I understand how difficult that is. Several years worth of content later, and I'm still so happy that I left the church. As devastating as it was when it happened, it was so worth it, and life is so much better on the other side. Even being disowned by my husband's family, it was still worth that. And that's saying something, because that was a huge loss too. But anyway, thank you for watching, and thank you so much to the people. If you're out there, if you happen to remember that at all, even if you don't, like, I just hope that those people who left those comments are doing well now too. I appreciated it so much, and I still do. Thank you for being there for me. And for those of you who are watching, never be afraid if somebody reaches out to you, or if they leave an anonymous post somewhere, to reach out and let them know that they're not alone, and that there's this huge community of ex-Mormons who's ready to be there for them. We understand how hard it is to leave the church. Thank you to my patrons for supporting the channel. You guys are the best. And extra special thank you to Amy and Doug Davis for supporting at the Demon tier on my Patreon. If you'd like to support the channel, there are links to do so in the description below. Thank you so much for being here, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.
You're keeping these promises strong as a spell. I'll never tell.